Let's go. Look, we're back at it, and this one is a big one. We're talking about a lost start. What is that lost start? I know that, first of all, we're going to help you unload, unpack, unlock, and unveil every attribute and ability that you possess for success. But I'm going to give you my piece of the pie, my perspective, my insight, and imagination concerning this lost art. And that lost art is empathy. Let's talk about it. So, empathy is the lost art. I found out that empathy, man, is not really exercised as often as it used to be. Like empathy used to be like a big thing. Like really, people really cared about people, and I think that we've gotten a little callous to how we correspond with individuals, even face to face, because we have so many outlets for communication that we have taken the one-on-one out of the play, out of play, right? So the family is so distant. The relationships are longer distance. The distance apart for relationships are farther apart because we believe that making a phone call and shooting a text message bring us together. And cool, I don't have a problem with technology because that is a benefit to be able to do that. But I think we are leaning on that way too much because now we have literally have given up empathy and we have supplemented our empathy with sympathy, right? And that's really been the biggest issue is that the supplement of empathy with sympathy. And a lot of people get those mixed up, but I'm gonna tell you what, empathy is a very powerful tool. If you find somebody who has empathy, man, keep that individual around you. Stay connected to that individual. This lost art is fundamental for building strong relationships. And that's why it's in my book, 28 Power Keys to Success, because it is something that you can utilize. It's an ability that you can activate, you can cultivate, you can work on by understanding what it means to have empathy. So we're going to help you do that today. So there's a couple things that we want to do. First of all, let's talk about the difference between empathy and sympathy, right? So the reason why I want to talk about the difference between empathy and sympathy is because sometimes we get those mixed up. They sound very similar. They have sentence, the structure of it's really similar, really similar. But the differences is internal, external, right? And how we make those exchanges and all these wonderful things that play along with our feelings, our emotions, our thought processes, and how we engage other individuals. And so here we go. Sympathy. The definition of sympathy is feeling of pity and sorrow for someone's misfortune. Now, someone else's misfortune, not your own, but someone else's. And this is a tough place because there's nothing wrong with sympathy. And I'm not telling you that there's anything wrong with sympathy. I'm telling you that the empathy is a deeper exchange, right? It's a deeper exchange. It's a deeper understanding. And, this is a quality that individuals, if they have it, you want them in your circle, right? They can help you move forward to your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations a whole lot better than an individual who's looking at you with pity, an individual who's looking at you sorrowful. And now these are not bad things. Like sometimes you want somebody to have pity on you, man. Have pity on me, man. I'm in a tough situation, man. Don't press the issue. Sorrow is really deep feelings and emotions, right? But they're your feelings and they're your emotions. And so it's a lot of external projections in sympathy. There's things that I'm dealing with, and it comes from my views, my past, my experiences, and what I believe you might be experiencing. So, I normally connect my feelings to what's going on in your life. It's because it's your misfortune. It's your misfortune, but it's my feelings. And so that's where this line crosses with empathy, because when we look at empathy, it's the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, right? Now, it would seem really tough to be able to understand and share the feelings of another, but let me talk about this really quick. Over the past 20 years, and even more so recently, we hear people talking about emotional intelligence. And empathy is one of those categories that we have to be able to utilize when we're talking about emotional intelligence. It really equips us with the ability to have emotional intelligence. One, if we have sympathy, we understand how we feel. But if we have empathy, we understand how someone else feels. And then not only do we understand that, we actually can share those feelings. So how many times have you been in a position where a situation, a circumstance happened and you crying with the individual, not because of what you're dealing with, but you can feel what they feel, right? You can feel what they're going through. You can feel the pain. You can feel the agony, the sorrow. You can feel it all, and it's not pity. And it's so much not pity that you want to you want to be right there with them and help them get out of it, right? Like it's your own situation, it's your own problem. This is what happens when someone actually has empathy. They start looking for ways to solve the issue with you. They start to look for ways to build you up because they understand your feelings, not just theirs. They understand your feelings, they understand your emotions, they understand how things are perceived from where you are, right where you are, whether it's a lost loved one, lost job, financial situation, relationship, whatever the circumstances is. And so this power key allows you to flip the switch on empathy and access other individuals' emotions. It helps you access their feelings and the stance that they're in. There's a few inserts I want to talk about in the book because one of the things is this is a truly valuable resource that helps build effective communication. One, effective communication happens because we understand the other individual, other parties. We understand their feelings, right? Their emotions and what they're dealing with. We are able to analyze a little bit deeper versus from our own perspective. Oftentimes, when we look at something, we look at things from our own expectations. And I tell people we have expectations based off our past. We have expectations based off our current situation. We have expectations based off the things that are coming to us and the exchanges that we have and the standards that we possess for ourselves. And so when we look at someone and we're talking about empathy, we have to really shut that down. We really got to cut that off, and we got to start looking at this individual, and we got to understand what this individual circumstances are. We got to be able to listen. We got to be able to download the data that they share with us, and we have to be able to emote with them, right? We got to be able to make that connection. And then it help us bring resolutions. This is how valuable this attribute and ability is. It help us bring resolutions to another person's situation and circumstance. And I think this is very, very powerful. So let me talk about the misconception between empathy and sympathy. It says there's a distinct quality for each of these, and they're used quite differently. Sympathy is not necessarily an ability, right? It is a feeling that derives from our situations and circumstances, and it pulls and tugs on our emotions, right? So it's our feelings, our emotions. That's sympathy. But empathy is a little bit differently because it's not necessarily connected to pity or sorrow, right? We meet their emotions with ours, right? We meet their emotions. We come right on the same plane with their emotions with ours. How many people have cried with you, right? How many people have laughed with you? How many people have shared those emotional states with you? And man, there's so much synergy, right? There's so much balance that when you guys move, it's like you know exactly how they're functioning and operating. Like empathy brings you to that place. It brings you to that place. And it's really something powerful. We understand from our point of view and past perspectives, most cases when we're talking about sympathy, our point of view. But then when we're talking about empathy, we carefully assess the situation and lock into the feelings of others, seeing things from someone else's perspective. Now, perspective, you can't get someone else's perspective unless they give it to you. And this is really where empathy engages who we are, because if we really want to show empathy, we have to engage other individuals. We have to ask questions. We have to be present. We got to be around to get the data, to get the information, to truly understand how they feel and see things from their perspective. And that's a really that's a lost art. People are not doing that. People are not spending time with people. People are not around people. And I'm telling you, exchanges are very, very transactional, fast. They're trying to get it done. They're trying to move. Nah, we got to slow down. We got to slow down. We got to absorb information, saturate in it, understand it, and then we got to move with that, right? And then it says here we got two types of empathy. Two types of empathy. Let me pull those up really quick. Two types of empathy. One is cognitive, and the other one is affective, right? Like, so there's these two types of empathy that we can actually start utilizing to help us build our relationships that will help us get to our dreams, our goals, and our aspirations, that help us see those things face to face, to see the outcomes that we want in our relationships, in our exchanges with individuals, with clients, with customers, real authentic relationships. Empathy does that. And these two components help us. So first of all, it helps. Cognitive empathy helps us understand why they're responding the way they respond, and in the manner that they're responding. So not the way we believe, right? So we understand the way they are responding versus the way we believe the reason they're responding. And we have to really step into that strong. And this is like gathering the information and gathering the data. And I alluded to this earlier. We can't just be reactionary and just see the situation and circumstance and then respond to it. We have to be able to enter into an engagement with them, gather the information, ask and open-ended questions, let them respond to us. You got to have some kind of intentionality when you really have empathy for somebody. There's a level of intentionality that is not present with sympathy, man. Sympathy is from a distance. Man, I really hate that happened for them. Man, that's so tough. And we have sympathy for the things that we see online, and we have empathy, but there's no real interaction or engagement with it, right? Empathy makes a connection, right? And then we have effective empathy. Effective empathy is determined in different ways, but it helps us also determine the approaches that we should have, right? How do we approach the situation with these individuals? How do we approach the people in general that are going through whatever they're going through? And it can be ups and it can be downs. Empathy doesn't just talk about the negative things individuals going through. I know a lot of times people want to talk about misfortune, but it talks about how can we understand their responses and their feelings and their emotions, and how can we connect our feelings and emotions to meet them at the same plane, and we feel what they feel, right? We feel what they feel. And so we resolute with them, right? We find resolutions with them. It says here, oftentimes we refrain or disengage emotional situations as if they are conflicts. We treat emotional situations as if they're conflicts. So whenever someone is having an emotional breakdown, or if they having some kind of emotional fluctuation in their lives, and there's a inconsistency going on, we tend to treat those as if they're conflicts, and we don't have any conflict with them, but we treat them like they're conflicts, and we run away from them. We levant, man, like we flee, we get out of there. Man, hey, not my business, well, what about your relationship with this individual? And if we're talking about leaders, it's very important, because you're talking about you taking ownership over a metric. You're talking about taking ownership over an operation or business, but you're not taking ownership over the relationships that you have. And I tell people all the time, when we're talking about business, it's 80-20. The relationship, you got to give 80% of your time to the relationships that you build and 20% to the systems. And so if I'm talking about really producing as a leader, I got to be present for the people, right? I got to be present for the people. And empathy allows me to really engage, me being a leader who's present for the people. Here it says, our responses are structured to support brokenness, lessen the tension, and fill the gaps. That's active. That's active empathy. That's active empathy. We're addressing. We're helping with brokenness, right? We're bringing structure to the brokenness. We're lessening the impact, and we're filling the gaps, right? So there are places of lack, man. When you talk about empathy, empathy is a fulfilling thing. Like literally, it fulfills things. It brings wholeness to a situation. And you have the qualities, the attributes, and the ability to turn that on, this power key, and change somebody's situation and change someone's life. Like there's a level of loyalty that really is reciprocated when someone has empathy for another individual, and it's really effective and explosive. So when I think about this and I think about the relationships I have, I'm like, man, anybody that can express this level of engagement with me, empathy, if they can show me empathy, I need them in my corner, and I don't want to let them go. And I'm going to make sure that I do everything I can. I'm telling you, do everything you can to keep this individual who's operating in this lost art in our cultures around the world. Like, you do everything to keep these individuals around you. Why? Because these individuals are going to be the ones who do what's best for you, just like you're doing for them. Right? These are very valuable individuals. You don't want to lose those people. I love the fact that we look at this as a lost art, but ultimately, awareness is really big. And when we're talking about emotional intelligence, we talk about awareness. We talk about internal and external awareness, how I'm aware of my feelings and my emotions and how I correspond and engage with people and how they affect other individuals. But then we have to be able to have empathy, this lost art, this power key, and be able to flip the switch on and utilize this to be able to connect with individuals in our communities, right? In our cities, in our states, even through our messages and writing, right? We should be able to connect with people on a higher level. And these conversations need to be had, whether it's through these means of podcasts or video casting on social media, person, one-on-one, on a radio, whatever, blogs. We have to be able to communicate and make people aware of this ability called empathy that really will shake up our community and bring us to a place of really building strong communities, having more camaraderie. We'll see more leadership take place, and we'll see people have more longevity on their jobs. We're talking about less conversion, like less people, less of your people leaving, right? What do we call that? When people leave, turnover, so we have less turnover. We're talking about make sure that we maintain real relationships, and those relationships will yield for you. They will yield for you, but you have to make the decision. Okay, I'm going to initiate empathy, and I'm going to be intentional about these engagements that I have with individuals. That's the power key that will take you to the next level. Look, this book is 28 Power Keys to Success. It's been changing lives across the world. It's been making an impact in people's lives where they can unload, unpack, unlock, and unveil their pie, their perspective, their insight, and their imagination so they can really propel themselves and see their dreams, their goals, and aspirations face to face. I want you to get this book. The description is the link is in the description. Make sure you get this book.